I'm Miss Allison, and I am here today to show you how to make your own Play-Doh. So this recipe Miss Marie shared with me a long time ago, and we've been making it for Movers and Makers and other programs at the library ever since, so we wanted to show you how to make it at home. The recipe is from The Artful Parent, which is a great book with a lot of fun stuff to do with your kids, making art. You can check it out from the library. We have it as an ebook as well, or you can find this recipe in particular on her website, so I will link to that in the notes of the video. So the ingredients are pretty simple. We've got 2 cups of flour here, 1 cup of table salt, 2 tablespoons of cream of tartar, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, some food coloring, and 2 cups of boiling water. I just poured it so it's nice and hot while we make our stuff. So the first thing you're going to do is combine all of your dry ingredients. So I've got my flour in the bowl already, and I'm going to add in my salt and my cream of tartar. The cream of tartar helps to preserve it and give it a nice smooth texture and make it last a little bit longer. This stuff has kept for a couple months, honestly. I usually throw it in the fridge just to keep it fresh. You can use it for a long time. So once everything is mixed up nice and smooth, you're going to build a little well in the center. So you're going to push all of the dry ingredients kind of off to the side. Not sure how well you can see it, but I've got a little cavity there where I'm going to pour my wet stuff. So I'm going to first add my oil, and then I'm going to put my food coloring into my boiling water. It helps to give you a nice even distribution of the color, so I'd recommend doing that. Today I'm making some sky blue Play-Doh, so I'm going to give that a little stir so that the water is nice and blue. And then I'm going to pour that right in the little well that I've created. And this is pretty hot, so if you're doing this with your kiddos, you want to be careful in this part. Otherwise, the measuring, the pouring, the stirring is great stuff for your kids to help with if they, want a job while you're working on this. So then you're going to stir it up to combine it, and it looks super gloopy, kind of messy. That's okay, it's supposed to, so don't worry. So I'm going to mix that. Now this is pretty hot, so before you handle it, you're going to want to give it a couple minutes to kind of cool down so that you don't hurt your hands as you're mixing it together. So it's pretty kind of gloopy. I think that's the best word for it. So there's some chunks there that aren't quite mixed in, but I'm going to sort of let this sit for just a second so that I don't hurt my hands when I stir it up. And while that cools down, I'm going to give you guys some ideas for playing with your Play-Doh. Now, of course, if you have, any Play-Doh sets or stuff at home, you can always use those tools with stuff you make yourself. At the library, we've got some kid-sized rolling pins and some other little dough-safe scissors and cookie cutters and that sort of stuff that we use. So if you have that, that's awesome. If you don't, you can still make loads of stuff with your Play-Doh. One of our favorite projects at Movers and Makers is to gather unusual things to mix into our dough. So we have, gotten sticks or leaves or flowers, stuff from outside. With everything blooming, there's probably loads out there for you to go collect and build your own little world with your dough. We used it as a base for our Mini Worlds workshop last summer with older kids, where they, maybe made an under the sea set with seashells and little characters and things and played with them as a story setting, so they could write a story based on that world they made. Another thing that could be fun is using dried pasta noodles. You can make prints in the dough or build crazy looking sculptures with noodles sticking out of it. That can be fun too. One time at Movers and Makers, we had a pizza party with our Play-Doh. So we made a couple batches of dough. Some of it was the undyed, just kind of white flour color. I dyed some red, like pepperoni, and some yellow and orange, like some cheeses, and the kids made their own little pizzas. So you could do some pretend food play too. There's loads of ideas. So if you do make this at home, drop us a note in the comments or show us a picture of what you decided to make with it. So just that minute or two, it's cooled down a bit. So I'm going to plop it up here on my mat, and we are going to get it to be a little smoother and have it come together. So if you have ever made bread, you'll be familiar with this next step of kneading your dough. If you are not a bread maker, like me, don't worry. You don't need to have the perfect technique to turn this into really smooth Play-Doh. It's already pretty nice, but to knead your dough, you're going to sort of gather it into a ball and use the heel of your hand to kind of push it, and then fold it over, push it, fold it over, and I kind of give it a a quarter or a half turn each time I push it, just to make sure you're mixing all the stuff. And right now mine's still pretty warm, but it's not too bad. You'll definitely want to let it cool down to a safe temperature before you let your kiddos at it, but they can definitely help knead as well. So you're going to knead this for really as long as you like. I already think it's pretty silky smooth and a nice texture, but you can keep kneading it. You can use both hands, just pushing, folding, rotating. It's not the prettiest kneading. I'm sure it wouldn't make for the best loaf of bread, but it makes for a pretty good Play-Doh texture. So that's it. This is one batch of it. I've doubled it before, and that works pretty well if you have a big enough bowl when I'm making a lot for movers and makers. But you can also, do it in smaller quantities if you want to make a lot more colors or whatever amount you want. It's a pretty simple recipe. So there is a bunch of Play-Doh. So I hope you guys are inspired to make your own. You can even add in stuff like glitter. That step where I pour in the liquid, you could put essential oils if you wanted it to smell nice, or who knows. You can experiment with it as well and find some other things to do. So I hope you make your own Play-Doh. Show us some pictures of what you've created and have fun making.